Hey everyone, and welcome to our next seasonally appropriate project. Today we're going to learn how to turn your first name into a really decorative text that uses fire and kind of makes it look like your name is made of fire. And this is one that people tend to enjoy quite a bit because you learn really cool text effects. You can apply these effects later on if you'd like to other text if you're working on any kind of personal project. And you also learn how to use the renowned Liquify tool in Photopea and Photoshop. For this project, we are going to start with a completely blank document, so we are not going to open anything up when we're beginning. Instead, what we're going to do is go to File and New, or you can click on New Project from here. These are what you want your settings to be. You want the name of your file to be fire text. You want to set your DPI first to 150. It is important to set your DPI before your width and height because it is going to adjust it. Then you want to set your width and height to 2000 by 2000 pixels. Make sure it is not set to inches, millimeters, or percent. It must be set on pixels. Otherwise, you're going to have a very, very large file. You need to make sure that it's set to pixels. Lastly, before we create the file, you need to make sure that your background is set to background instead of white or transparent. And double check and make sure that your background color here in your toolbar is set to black. So that means it's going to set our background color to whatever our background is set to in the toolbar. And in this case, it is set to black. If it is not set to black, what you can do when we go into Photopea is just edit fill and then fill it with black so you have the black background that you need. Now we're just going to click on create and it's going to create a square template for us with a black background already set. And we'll be using the text tool just like we used in our previous project for the postcard. So we're going to go to the T tool in our toolbar. And my name is quite short, it's only 4 letters. And because of that, I'm going to make a text box that isn't too horizontally long. I'm going to make one that's about this large. And there are a few things that we need to set before we start typing. I want you guys to use the font Amethysta. The reason is because it is a serif font. It kind of resembles a font like Times New Roman where it has these little tiny tails coming off of it, and these tails are otherwise known as serifs, S-E-R-I-F. We want to do that because we'll be liquefying these tails to make it look like fire. So if you don't want to use this one in particular, just go ahead and use another font that has serifs. And if you're still unsure about what a serif is, go ahead and just open up a new tab really quickly and Google serif font, and I think you'll understand a bit better what I mean by serifs. You also want to make sure that your color is set to white. If it is not set to white, go ahead and click it, and then just click and drag it over to the top left and press OK. And finally, you just want to make sure your text is centered. To be sure of that, you want to go right in here to these little paragraph styles, and you want to click the middle button to make sure that your text is going to be centered. The size is all going to depend on how long your name is. Because mine is only 4 letters, I'm setting mine to 600. If you also have a 4-letter name, that's a little bit of a shortcut. Just set it to 600 pixels. And I'm going to go ahead and type my name in all capital letters, like so. And if you find that your name isn't really fitting in here, if it's too big or too small, what you can do is hit Control-A to select all of your text. And then once it has been highlighted, you can play around with this size bar over here and maybe set it lower or set it higher. I can try 500 and press enter. It really depends on how long your name is, but you do want to fill up as much of this canvas as you can, just with small black bars of space on the left and right side. Mine was good at 600, so I'm just going to set it back to that and press enter. And once I'm happy with the size of the text, I'm going to go back to my move tool to get out of my type tool. I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to click and drag my text so it's nice and centered on the canvas like so. Now before we get into liquifying our name, we need to change this layer into a smart object. In Photoshop and in Photopea, you cannot liquify text. It has to be either rasterized or turned into a smart object. And because we don't want to destroy our original layer, we want to just turn it into a smart object first. So I'm going to right click on my text layer and I'm going to click Convert to Smart Object. It is technically considered a filter, so it's called the Liquify Filter. And because we have set this to a smart object, it's going to apply a smart filter when we liquify it. So if you're ever unhappy with your liquify, you can always delete that smart filter and then try it again. To liquify, we're going to go to the filter option at the very top menu, and we're going to click the word liquify. Once you do so, you're going to notice that the Photopea menu has changed quite a bit. We don't see our toolbar anymore, and we pretty much just see our name with these weird little sliding bars and these weird little squiggles on the left as well. This is the Liquify toolbar. And these are the settings for your liquefying brush. So notice, just like with a paintbrush, we have this brush right over here that we can make larger or smaller with our brackets or with this brush size here. We have density, rate, and opacity, which we don't mess around with too much. We just keep them at the defaults. And you also want to make sure that you're on the first tool in this toolbar, which is called Smudge. You don't want to use these other ones because they'll create other effects, which if you want to try them for fun, you can do so, and then you can always just undo them to see what they do. If you want to play around with these different tools in Liquify, you can do so, and then you can just undo it if you're just curious about the different actions they perform. But we are going to stick to the first one, which is called Smudge. One last thing to be sure of before you start, if you don't see this same black background as me, what you want to do is go ahead and just check mark the background option on the right side, right under rate, and you will be able to see your black background again, just so it's a little bit easier to liquify. Our goal is going to be to make this text look like it is on fire and composed of flames. So we're going to make these little licks of flames from our text. I'm going to go ahead and bring my brush size down. I want my brush size to be as thick as my stroke, if not a little bit smaller. Generally, you don't want to go too big with your brush sizes because then it's going to create a really long and weird liquify like that. So we want to keep our brush size relatively small so we can create these small licks of flame. I'll start with my first letter, which is the N. And to apply the Liquify filter, all you need to do is click and drag your mouse and sort of work up these pieces of flame as if you're modeling it, as if you're kind of sculpting it. So you're pulling up from the original white text. You can also make smaller ones if you want to, and you can do as many or as little as you'd like. I'm going to choose to do a medium amount, but if you'd like to do more, you can. You can also sort of make them twirl like this, as if they're going to the side. So there is going to be a lot of clicking and dragging involved here. For my other three letters, I'm going to go ahead and just speed up the video so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do this. So I'll see you in a few seconds. Now at this point, I'm quite happy with the amount that I've liquefied. Once you are happy with it yourself, you can go ahead and just click on OK to end the liquify, and you'll see that a new layer has popped up underneath my name. And it is called a smart filter, and underneath it you can see that it's called Liquify. So at any point, if you decide that you're unhappy with the amount of liquefying you did, you can always delete that smart filter by just right-clicking it and clicking Clear Smart Filters, and it will go away. In my case, I was happy with it, so I'm just gonna bring it back real quick. That is all we're going to do for this portion of the video. In the next portion, I'm going to show you guys how to apply layer effects and how to add your images of the fire.png onto each one of your letters.